Prologue. Hawaii, December 21st, 1960. By the tender age of 20, Hadden Violetta learned one crucial life lesson: to heed his intuition, even if he risked losing everything. On that day, stealing an aircraft seemed a gamble worth taking. The sun, a mere sliver of golden light, breached the horizon. A full day of lying on the beach turned burned at his face. Add to that, the scent of cheap mulled wine trailed behind him from last night's Christmas party. Leaning against an ancient ironwood tree, he drew a quivering breath to steady himself. Wiping the perspiration from his brow, he shifted his weight onto the balls of his feet, rolled his shoulders, and burst into a sprint through the dense undergrowth. Emerging from the sheltering shade, the trees expelled him into the humid, fume-laden atmosphere of the Air Force Base. He darted between pockets of darkness, seeking refuge behind a discarded shipping container. Peering around the corner, Hadden observed the ground crew's final preparations for the aircraft, huddled together, engaging in idle conversation. As scheduled, a truck arrived at the entrance, delivering a fresh consignment of provisions. As expected, the ground crew abandoned the unguarded plane to assist with the offloading. With only a skeletal staff remaining to cover the morning shift, most were nursing a Christmas party hangover. The F-100 Super Sabre now stood alone, its canopy open. Hadden looked in both directions, then broke cover. He sprinted across the runway, hoisted himself into the cockpit, sealed the canopy shut, and donned the pilot's helmet. Even without a photographic memory, he'd have known what to do. The countless hours of training had made running checks a second nature, his hands moving from switch to button without so much as a hesitation. As the engines roared to life, the ground crew looked up, startled. The pilot emerged from the latrine with a confused expression, his eyes darting back and forth between the ground crew and his no longer idle aircraft. As Hadden thundered down the runway, the crew ran for the airfield, waving their arms. The propeller plane lifted him into the air and the base disappeared into the background. He breathed a sigh of relief. Once he entered the cloud cover, Hadden activated the cloaking device in his amethyst amplifier, but he couldn't tell if it worked. To be on the safe side, he deactivated the radio signal in the plane. No one could stop him now. In the distance, the Makapu'u lighthouse jutted like a beacon of hope against the azure sea. A humpback whale breached out of the sea below, and Hadden barrel-rolled in response before dropping low over the water. The whale breached again, splashing down in great plumes of foam. Hadden smiled. He felt free, even if just for a few rare moments. He climbed to 5,000 feet, then veered northeast, leaning hard towards the big island. The engine vibrated in his chest as he leveled out the plane. As he cruised through the atmosphere, faces appeared, as they often did, in clouds and seascapes. Today, his mother's star-drenched eyes appeared in the swirls of indigo below him. Their last conversation haunted him, still echoing in his ears. His decision to join the Air Force had torn the family apart. But this meeting could change all that and undo any wrongs against his family and those he loved. Because his hands trembled on the controls, Hadden had to take a long, slow breath to calm down. He searched his memory banks for the story he needed, a tale about his father flying through a vortex that warped time, blurring the edges of one reality with another. The tale possessed such vividness that it seemed as if he'd lived it firsthand. Air Force personnel rarely discussed these anomalies. Places like the Bermuda Triangle remained an unsolved mystery as far as civilians were concerned, but Hadden knew better. His father came from a place where people could travel between timelines and dimensions. A well-kept secret in one world was common knowledge in another. He scanned the horizon until he saw it, the tubular cloud that marked an underwater volcano where he could access a time travel vortex. As he neared it, the instrument panel grew erratic, dials leaping like fleas. Instead of pointing to the magnetic north, it spun before locking onto the true north. His breath quickened as he unfolded the handwritten note. It contained 4 images, a date, and a set of numbers. For 4 nights in a row, he dreamt the contents of that note. The first night was an image of the tubular-shaped cloud near Kilauea volcano, also known as the Hawaiian vortex, with the date 21st December 1960, the winter solstice. On the second night, he saw a city with skyscrapers and a tower that had a flying saucer on top of it. In the distance, a snow-capped mountain towered above that city. On the third night, he dreamt of a house with a dome. It stood near a miniature Statue of Liberty. On the fourth night, he'd seen the time-space coordinates. The realization had jolted him awake, covered in sweat. If this mission proved successful, it went against all time travel regulations that had ever existed, but he had to do it anyway. Gripping the controls, he held the plane steady, pushing it to max speed, then plunged into the center of the great cylinder. The cloud swallowed the aircraft whole. Inside, flashes of fork lightning erupted all around him. Thunder shook his ribcage. Swirling black clouds formed a tunnel ahead of him. As the propellers strained against the magnetic pull, sparks flew from the engine. Still, the plane glided forward as if on a frozen lake. His hands clenched the steering shaft, the plane shuddering so hard that metal plates separated. When the tailpiece erupted in a fireball, his breathing caught in his chest. He pressed his neck against the headrest, tucked his chin to his chest, brought his elbows in close, and yanked the ejection lever. The canopy flew off, and the charge beneath the seat fired, launching him clear of the plane. Seconds later, the chair fell away as his parachute opened. He watched in anguish as the plane flew into the distance, trailed by a cloud of black smoke. As he fell into the abyss, his stomach churned. Wind screamed in his ears, and sodden clouds engulfed him in the pitch dark. Hadden prayed for a soft landing. When the clouds parted, the moon hung full in a starry sky. A landmass covered in silver skyscrapers sparkled in the twilight, most of them standing taller than anything he'd seen before. One looked like a flying saucer on top of a tower, just like in his dream. He maneuvered his parachute away from the buildings and towards a nearby beach park. In the distance, the white cap of Mount Rainier looked on over his hometown. He recognized it, but Seattle had exploded in size, sprawling as well as stretching skyward. Yet, despite the immensity of the city, it seemed quiet, the roads void of cars. He splashed down into Puget Sound, 50 meters from Alki Beach Park. Freeing himself from the chute, he swam to the familiar beach with the miniature Statue of Liberty. Crawling out of the water, he looked down at both ends of the shoreline. Not a soul. Dripping wet, he hiked up the rocky beach to a picnic bench. Between the slats, a newspaper caught his eye. Hadden held it up to the moonlight, squinting to see the date. He let out a breath and held his forehead. "It worked," he muttered, spinning around in a circle, trying to see what this new century looked like. The year 2010, that's unbelievable. A few blocks away stood the house with the dome. He shook himself off and headed towards it. It's why he'd come. After all, summoned by an enigmatic call from the future, he sought to meet the person who had sent him the message. His 70-year-old self. So that was the opening prologue. You can find the audio of the next 2 chapters, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, at the Golden Age Timeline channel on YouTube. Now, stay tuned for the book trailer. In a world where love, time travel, and psychic powers converge, prepare to embark on an extraordinary journey. The second edition of the captivating science fiction and epic fantasy novel Helio Tropez is now here, Book 1 of the Timeline Redemption series. Tia Violetta's life is about to unravel as she approaches her 30th birthday. Secluded in a Seattle mansion, protected by her paranoid father, she remains unaware of her true heritage and the looming threat to herself and all of humanity. Little does she know, Tia holds the key to something extraordinary, something that the malevolent AI, Sim, relentlessly pursues. Tia and her father, Hadden, are descendants of a subterranean city called Helio Tropez, with inhabitants possessing awe-inspiring abilities. Only by uniting with 4 other women in her family can Tia unleash her Pentada powers and help free humanity from the clutches of the parasitic Sim who has kept them apart. But the story takes a heart-stopping twist. Just moments before old Hadden passes away, a young Hadden travels 50 years into the future to protect Tia. This selfless act sets in motion a series of events that shatter Tia's world, fracturing their reality into 2 separate timelines. As Tia and young Hadden navigate treacherous terrains across timelines, their journey tests their resilience and family bonds. Humanity's fate hangs in the balance, poised for ascension or annihilation. One reviewer says, "There is a metaphysical aspect that makes it so much more than just a good read. Fans of sci-fi fantasy will enjoy it for sure, but readers who seek depth will be thrilled to step out of the mundane and into this fascinating world. If you love rich and fascinating characters and compelling plot lines, this is for you." And if you're ready to dive into the world of Helio Tropez, get your copy by using the link below or go on Amazon. Start today exploring this page-turning journey through time and through space.